Okay, I'm going to call this an ACL success story so far. I've torn both my ACLs. It's coming up on 5 years in January since my first tear. My second tear, I think, happened something like maybe 18 months after my first. Left knee was the first tear, right knee was the second tear. A few months ago, I made a ski edit and put it on YouTube, ski season 21-22, and I mentioned that I torn my ACLs, and having a 28-day season was pretty incredible for me. It was finally a season that didn't start off wearing a ski brace and ending it on Superstar and Outer Limits the time before that was pretty good accomplishment for me. I felt really good about that. A little history on me. I'm an East Coast skier mainly. I've skied at Hunter. I'm a weekend guy. Recent seasons. My first comeback season after a first tear, I got 33 days in. That was 18 and 19. Season of 19-20, I didn't ski at all. Ski season of 2021, I got 15 days in, and this last season, I got 28 days in. Now, that I felt good about all those seasons. That's pretty good for me, working guy, weekend warrior. It's taken me a little while to try to get this video together. Some people asked for this video after my story, and I'm happy to share my story. Hopefully I can help some people out. But I recently learned how to skydive. So since April, I've been doing a lot of skydiving, and yesterday I hit my 100th jump. So that was pretty cool. It was a pretty good accomplishment. Right over the mountain from Ellenville, where I'm from, back where skydive number 1 was. So really great. But you're not here to hear about that. You're here to hear about ACLs. So the only reason I mentioned skydiving is if I didn't have 100% confidence in my knees, I wouldn't learn to skydive this year. Because as a student, you crash. And crashing could potentially tear up your knees, and it could tear up a lot of things. But I had full confidence in my knees, in my recovery, everything that I've worked so hard for so far. So I went after it. I was lucky. I got my license, and things are good. So let's get into my story here. I've got a couple notebooks going here. This is not going to be a 5-minute video. I was surprised at how much stuff I've done and been through, and people I've met, and this is going to take a little while. So if you're looking for a quick video, you might as well turn this one off and go someplace else. I'm just a regular working guy. I'm not a physical therapist. I am not a strength coach. I'm sharing my story with you. Hopefully it will help you out. Hopefully it will help you to maybe make a better decision for yourself, a good one. Maybe of what to do or what not to do. So I'm really just sharing my opinion here and what I've been through. So nothing I say is the law, that's for sure. The best advice I can give is learn as much as you can from as many people as you can and make the best decision for yourself. In early stage, check with your physical therapist and go from there. If I can come back from both of these knees and have the success that I've had as a working guy, not an elite athlete, I'm definitely not that. I guarantee you anybody else can. So I will try my best to tell my story the best I can. I've over almost 5 years. It's going to be really hard to make a quick video on this, but I'll do the best I can. So in 2017, the day after Christmas, my sister and I went helicopter skiing for the first time, and really incredible experience. We went with Silverton Mountain Guides in Alaska, and it was just like a total dream. Really changed me. Blue skies, no wind. It usually doesn't line up like that in Alaska. Great snow, great people. And on run number 4, I tore my ACL, my left ACL. The lead guide helped me down, had to do some on skiing. Got to ride in a helicopter for the rest of the day, which was a lot of fun. Watch everybody else ski. And I wanted to just fix my knee immediately. You know, I was like, fix it. I have to go back to do that again. That was just too incredible. I have to ski again, fix my knee, fix it right now. Well, luckily, my sister knew of a good surgeon, you know, she being from the area, Dr. Schumacher at Anchorage Fracture and Orthopedic. And on January 10th, during the end of my vacation, my whole vacation was spent in Alaska on the couch. Thank you, sis, for taking care of me. I had surgery and did a quick rehab there, a quick PT there with a local physical therapist, and got on a plane and went back to Connecticut where I was working at the time. And one of the things that I came across an article about ACL recovery. And a lot of people don't have tremendous success with it, it seems. But there are a small few that find fitness and become an even better skier or athlete than they were before. And when I read that article and I came across that, I said, well, that's the person I want to try to be. I want to be that guy. I want to be the one who's a better skier after my ACL injuries, because I'll get stronger, I'll get faster, I'll become more fit. Now, it's going to take tremendous amount of work, but I want to continue and be able to do a day like that in Alaska, get dropped off at the top of the mountain by a helicopter and skiing down. It's really just incredible. So when I returned to Connecticut, I was working with a trainer. I actually just joined a gym for the first time in my life before I went to Alaska trying to get in shape. And she recommended Jim Ronai was the gentleman's name. And I did not know who Jim was. And thank God for Jim. So when I got back, I learned more and more about him. He was a strength coach at Yale for various sports. He's worked with Olympic athletes. Very, very, very knowledgeable trainer and physical therapist. And at the time, he was working for a company. Now he is out on his own. He has everything out under one roof, which is incredible. He's got physical therapy and he's got strength training. He's got the whole 9 yards. If anybody's near Orange, Connecticut, that is where you go, 100%. So I started working with Jim with physical therapy, and I was continue working with my trainer at the gym. So what I can highly recommend is not just doing the bare minimum with your ACL recovery. Make sure that you add other things during those off days. So if your physical therapy or your exercises at home are, we'll say 3 days a week, make sure those other 3 days a week you're working on other muscles, upper body, core, stuff like that. Because you need your overall fitness even more when it comes to return to skiing. And I will get why here in a minute. Or I will share why here in a minute, should I say. So Jim got me back going, and about 5 or so months in, I'd been cleared to, bike and run to extent. I really had to be careful running. I wanted to be on flat surfaces, didn't want to run on, uneven surfaces. And I had a friend at the time that was, she was always talking about triathlons. So I said, well, why don't I mix that into my recovery? So 5 months in, I got a beginner Olympic plan off of Training Peaks. It's like an app, or I think it's an app. And I trained for 12 weeks to complete an Olympic triathlon. And if you don't know what an Olympic triathlon is, it's 9/10 of a mile swim, it's a 24.8 mile bike, and it's a 6.2 mile run. Pretty tough thing for me to train for, since I hadn't done any open water swimming, and I'd never run a 10K before. But I added that into the program. That was always secondary. If I had to miss a workout, I would miss one of those workouts. My ACL stuff was always first. I put my ACL first in front of everything. I wouldn't deviate from that. If there was something to do after work and people wanted to go out, nope. I got work to do. I was really driven and really focused with my recovery. And I rarely missed a workout for probably the first year. I made sure that I did all my workouts. So I clipped off the triathlon. That was a really good experience. I bought it, I just bought a used bike. Didn't spend a ton of money. Bought a bike for like $400. Some used bike from the '90s, old Cannondale. It was great. The swim was extremely rewarding. Swimming out, and I did the triathlon in Lake George, New York. Beautiful lake, incredible. I love swimming there. I grew up swimming there. So that was in September of 2018. And shortly after that time, PT was getting ready to finish up with Coach Ronai. And I remember the day when he was like, "Well, this is all I can do with you here," and my heart stopped. I was like, "No, dude, I'm not ready to leave you yet. I'm not ready to ski right now." He says, "Well, this is all I can do with you here." He says, "If you want, why don't you go over to try my place?" And at the time, he had a private gym for strength training for various sports, and he hooked me up with Coach Mike Simeoli. And man, thank God I met him, because we continued to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. I at the time, I had the trainer at the gym and Coach Ronai, and she moved on to another job, so it kind of worked out where I just moved right over to that private gym with Coach Mike, and we would train 1 hour Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he would program my workouts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I had the total package, and it was changing all the time. I always felt like I was going somewhere with him. We were doing cutting drills. We were doing reactive stuff. We were doing plyometrics. We did all kinds of stuff. It was incredible. So we were building my overall fitness up because ski season was coming. And by the time ski season came around, in, November, the first time back was 10 months after surgery. And I'll stress that was probably a little early. If I can recommend anything to anybody, take your time. Even if you're cleared to ski, think about it. As Glenn Plake once said, I love this one. Skiing's a life sentence. This is something we want to do for the rest of our lives. It's something I definitely want to do for the rest of my life. If I'm around in 50 years, I want to be skiing. I want to be skydiving. I want to be mountain biking. I want to be doing all this active stuff, or I want to at least have the ability to do it. And at 10 months, I was doing everything in the gym. But when you put those ski boots on, and you put your brace on, you have a sport. It's just different. Your brain is sending a message. Your brain has sent a message that, hey, there's still something wrong down there with your knee. And me having patella tendon grafts, they're still stiff and achy at times. Knees are great if they're moving. I know in a lot of my workouts, I would always do extra stuff. If I had a specific workout and I'd go to the gym and I wasn't with Coach Mike, I would probably ride the exercise bike for 15 minutes before I even started. I'd get the knee good and warmed up. Because sitting in a car or sitting at a desk for any amount of time, I'd get up, my knees were just achy. I mean, it was just really achy. Well, at the time, it was the one knee. So on day one to go skiing, I went up to Mount Snow. 10 months in. This is November 11th, 2018. I get there really early. I try to get there about an hour early, and I'd walk around in the lodge because I knew getting out of the car was like a 3-hour ride. I knew my knees were going to be stiff. So I got there early. I walked around in the lodge. I did my warm up from Coach Mike and Coach Ronai. I did that in there. I did exercises in there. I stretched in there. And once my knee was really good and warm, I put my brace on. And I used just a thin base layer. I put the brace over the base layer, and then I put my ski pants on over that. And then I would walk back to the car, wherever that is. This is normally what I did. and then I would boot up there. And you got to remember, walking around a ski area, take that into consideration. It's usually slippery, it's icy. Plan the path that you're going to take because you don't want to fall down and tear up your knee just walking to the chairlift. That would be worst case scenario. And most people, from what I'm told, don't have great stories like me. I tore my first ACL helicopter skiing. Oh wow, great, cool story. But who cares where I tore my ACL? I tore my ACL. I got to fix it. Whether you fell down some steps or whatever you did, want to get that thing fixed. So I'd get my knee good and warm, and on the first run, we had to upload. So we had to take the chairlift up, and then we had to take it back down to get over to the north face, those of you that know Mount Snow. And I took my season opener skis, which are behind me, the yellow Vocals, the P9s there, which are kind of old, some might call them, but my favorite skis, one of my favorite pair of skis. And I made a really big mistake because I did not tune those skis before day one. And my biggest advice to everybody would be stay away from early season conditions and stay away from late season conditions because it's variable. You got a lot of freeze thaws, you got a lot of thaw freezes, and conditions can be challenging, variable. So on my first run, I make 2 to 3 turns coming down the north face of Mount Snow, decent little pitch there at the top. And before I know it, I'm down. I'm sliding. I got the skis up in the air, and I'm heading for the trees. And it's one of those times where I'm picking up speed because it's so slick. I'm not slowing down because it's on the steep side there, and I'm going faster and faster, and I'm heading for the woods. And I can just hear myself now yelling at myself, get up, get up, get up. And I popped up like I knew what I was doing, skied off to the side, checked my shorts, everything was good, and I eased back to the lodge. Went down to the bottom, and that was it. Looking back up at Mount Snow, I was happy that I went that first day, but I made a lot of mistakes that day, especially skiing untuned skis, skiing in early season conditions. It was not smart. It was stupid. And I got a ski log, and here is what I wrote. 3 runs at Mount Snow, P9 vocal, no tune, big mistake. Never make first turns with untuned skis. Could have ended season on the first day. P9 vocals need serious tune-up. Might retire. Now, I hadn't skied them since. You know, I just hadn't skied them since. My old boots don't fit them, so I haven't skied them since. But I got a replacement behind me. And that was the first day. After that, I skied Hunter a couple times, doing the same thing, getting there early, getting to the lodge, walking around, warming up my knee, going through warm-up, putting the brace on, going back to the car, booting up out there, walking to the lift. And it's just, you're vulnerable. If you've skied the East, you know how parking lots and areas and ski areas can be. You know, you're very vulnerable. Walking in ski boots, it's not easy. Even I've been doing it for so long. When you got a brace on and you're questioning your knee. But then on December 2nd, 2018, I skinned up Hunter for the first time. Lucky at Hunter, they had an uphill policy. And man, I cannot recommend that enough to anybody with a knee issue. It is the best way to work on your overall fitness and work on your warming up your knee. Because when you climb all the way to the top of the mountain, those knees, or your single knee, or if you got 2 like me, are good and hot and ready to go. You peel those skins off, and away you go. And it is the best run of the day, the most rewarding run of the day. There's not a million people on the trail you got to worry about. You get up there early. You take off right at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whenever they let you start going down, and it is the best run, I promise you. And the setup that I used is this Vocal 108 with a F12 Tour marker binding. Now this binding is not a pin binding. If you don't know about skinning and uphill policy or whatever the hell you want to call it, this whole binding hinges. So the whole binding works. So the boot is in here and the whole binding works. I wanted a binding that was more of a downhill binding and a little bit of an uphill binding. If it was heavy, that was a good thing, I thought. I'm not trying to go way out in the middle of nowhere and stay for a week or climb some crazy thing in Alaska or out west. I'm really building strength. And this is a great ski. It's actually this 108 is a little bit much to be skiing groomers. It's a little too wide in my opinion, and it's full rocker. It's a little much. Great ski when it snows, but it's a little much. But this is the setup I started with, and then shortly after that, I got another setup. I got a Vocal 98. I switched to that a little narrower, a little easier to daily drive on a groomer, and I probably should have even gone thinner in the waist than that. And the boot I used was this one, the Vocal, or no, what the heck is this? The Technica Cochise 130. This has got a walk mode in it, where your boot hinges. I mean, I could get into this setup and what I use in skins in a different video, but I really want to stress how important it is, in my opinion, to my recovery, was being able to skin up in the morning. If you're at a place where you have an uphill policy, I think your first turns that you make when you come back, whenever that is, should be earned. I mean, you should climb up and you should ski down. Even if you go halfway up, even if you only go up 200 yards, all right, that warms up your knees. My knees were always achy in that first year, and they needed to be warmed up. If I kept my knees working, everything was beautiful. Never had a problem. If I sat in the car for long periods of time, if I sat behind a desk, they would just be achy. And you don't want that when you ski. Highly, highly recommend skinning up and then skiing down in early stages, and really all stages of skiing. It's the best way to warm your knees up. So as that season went on, my first recovery season, I'll call it, I'm working with Coach Mike. We would train all week. I'd see him twice a week, and I would have other programs Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I would ski Saturday and Sunday, and then I would go back and see Coach Mike again on Monday, and we would build strength and we would build fitness, and it wasn't just legs, it wasn't just ACL, it was everything. And I think that's what saved me on day one. You know, if I didn't do all that work, I could have ended up in the trees. I wouldn't have the ability to get out. Those big 205s were flapping away, and they're not really light. And you know, I popped up like I knew what I was doing. I probably just got lucky, but I think all the fitness work I did had something to do with that. I later in that season returned to Alaska to go helicopter skiing with Chugach powder guides. The weather wasn't good enough for it in March. We trained really hard. I trained really hard with Coach Mike. I was in good shape. And the birds didn't fly, so we went cat skiing, snow cat skiing, and that was just amazing. And you know, I had a brace on this whole season. It was probably a little early to be doing that. Looking back, I probably wouldn't have taken on a trip like that. You know, being the first ACL, you kind of didn't know you're good. You're working on strength. It's just not worth it. You know, take a little extra time. You know, what's the rush? Do you want to ski next year, the year after? I mean, I want to ski 20 years from now. So, what's the rush? So that trip went well. We did some backcountry skiing. It snowed so much that we really didn't get out in anything steep because the avalanche conditions were too much. You know, there's more snow than I had ever seen. That was a great trip. Returned from that and got back right after it with Coach Mike when I got back. And I entered my first local mogul competition. You know, the goal was to always get back in the moguls. You know, I loved skiing moguls as a kid. I just loved it. It was just the best part of skiing for me was bump skiing. And I entered the Hunter Mountain Bumps and Barbecue. I think there were like 40 or 50 skiers in it. They had one kicker at the bottom. We started kind of at the top, where the first kicker would normally be in like a competition course. I think we kind of started in there. It was really, really great course. The main reason I entered the mogul contest is because I like to ski moguls, and that's where the best lines are now. As generally speaking, at Hunter, they were on these hand-built courses. So after 40, 50 skiers, I think I was in like 4th or 5th place. It was great. I was like, wow, okay, I guess I'm in good shape. I guess the knee's back. Didn't really like going off the kickers. You know, I hadn't really jumped in so long. I wasn't really doing anything like I used to as a kid, but that was a bit much going off the kickers. Getting up to the top, you know, I'm looking around at the, I don't know, a dozen of us or 10 of us that got to the duels, and it was all kids in the mogul program and coaches and like me. Maybe there were more coming, but I didn't. I was like, really? What's going on here? And I asked the guy I was skiing against. I'm like, hey man, how old are you? He was like 22. And I just kind of shook my eyes. I was like, oh, great. I think a few got a chuckle out of that. And I remember telling myself, do not chase this kid down this mogul field. You know, ski your run here, and do not go after this guy because he's probably gonna smoke you. And sure enough, he was 3 moguls out before I even got off the line. I mean, he was gone. But it was a great time. Getting to the duels, and then skiing against somebody was fun. Was a lot of fun. Great event. But what I really wanted to ski in was the Bear Mountain Mogul Challenge. You know, I wanted to ski in that so badly as a kid. I can't tell you how badly I wanted to ski in that as a kid, but never could get up there. So the following weekend was the Bear Mountain Mogul Challenge. So I show up there a day earlier. The course is firm. You know, I skied a couple times. It's good. The kickers aren't open. And on the day that we raced, you know, they had the kickers open there. It was starting to soften up a little, but it was still on the firm side. And the jumping kind of got me a little bit. You know, I would go off the first kicker and I would land so far down into the bumps, and I didn't know how to slow down. I never knew how to really slow down as a mogul skier. You just go hard, and when the moguls shoot you out, you stop and catch your breath and keep going. So coming into the first jump to qualify, I kind of flared my right ski out. I kind of put my knee in a position where it was kind of like this, and the ACL let go. So I got the brace on the knee for the left ACL, and then I just tear the right ACL before I didn't even hit the first kicker. And over I go, down I go. And I was a little relieved that it wasn't my left knee, but there were definitely some tears that day. I worked so hard and I've been through so much. I did not want to go through that again. Luckily, a beautiful young snowboard ski patroller helped me down. She was awesome. She got my Jeep for me, pulled it around. Can't say enough about the ski patrollers at Killington, you know, or everywhere, really. And then I went over to see Dr. Russell, I think. Yeah, his name was Dr. Russell. So I get over, and that was over by Ram's Head. They've got a medical place over there. So I go over to Ram's Head. Dr. Russell says, all right, let's warm up. Let's grab he grabbed my left knee first. He wanted to check it out. Let's practice. And I said, yeah, I had that one done here recently. And he was like, wow, who did that one? That one feels great. So as soon as he said that, I was going to Alaska to get the surgery on the right one. decision was already made. So he grabbed the right one. He was like, yeah, it's a tear. It's a tear. Still got to get an MRI. But he's like, you don't need ACL. Just let's fire the quad. And he's right. You really don't need ACL. I know a couple people that ski without them. But that's not the path I took. So I limber my way out of there. I go back to Connecticut to work. And as soon as I get back there, I mean, Coach Mike is just boom. He's right on me going to town, going to work. We're going to do prehab on this one. So we're going to build as much strength as I can before I have surgery. Last time, I didn't do any of that. I would highly recommend doing the prehab. And he even said, we're going to get to the point where you're going to be like, I don't need to get my knee fixed. And he was right. About a month into it, right before surgery, my knee felt great. I was walking around, I had good strength. Felt great.